Hi, my name is Rick Bloodworth, and today is day 40 of the 90-day study through the New Testament. Today's study is going to wrap up the book of Acts, and it's Acts chapter 26 through 28 that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to be looking at Paul's final days, or at least the final days that we read about in Acts, from his imprisonment in Caesarea to his travel to Rome after he appeals to Caesar, the shipwreck that occurs, and then his imprisonment in Rome is where the book of Acts leaves off. Well, think about some of the circumstances that have led to this point. 2 years earlier, Paul had been involved with a riot when some of the Jews from another town came and tried to kill him. And so the Roman soldiers rescued him. They were about to beat him to find out why the riot had occurred, when Paul revealed to them that he was a Roman citizen. And so at that point, the soldiers withdrew. At least they certainly unbound him, and they did not give him a beating. Well, at the same time, they brought him before the governor, Felix, at the time, and told Felix what all had been going on. Well, Felix kept Paul in prison for 2 years, unjustly kept him. It's not that he was unfavorably disposed to Paul, because we're told that he even gave Paul certain liberties and allowed some of Paul's friends to come and take care of his needs while he was in prison. But at the same time, Felix was corrupt. He was hoping, we're told, that Paul would offer him some money, a bribe, to get out of prison, no doubt. And of course, Paul never did. Well, now 2 years have passed, and Paul is going to appear before the new governor, Festus, as well as King Agrippa and Queen Bernice. And I think it's just fascinating to see how Paul interacts with these people, because as you start in chapter 26, he starts off by telling King Agrippa how pleased he is to have the opportunity to present his case to such a one as the king. And then as he talks about what all he's been through and the reason for his hope, including the resurrection of Jesus, at this point, the new governor, Festus, says, "You're insane, Paul. Your great learning has driven you mad." Well, I don't know about you, but I think if I was in this situation, that might have been the last straw. But Paul was not at all offended, or at least he didn't show offense at this remark. As a matter of fact, he went on to talk to Festus in the most respectful terms, calling him most excellent Festus. And then he finished with the defense that he had, finally appealing to Caesar, and that's what eventuated his transportation to Rome and his imprisonment in Rome. But the reason I wanted to bring up chapter 26 and the way that Paul reacted is because I think there's something very important for us to learn from this. There are going to be times in life where things that just are unfair happen. Have you ever been pulled over maybe by a highway patrolman for something that you hadn't done? I remember one time my family and I were on a trip, and we were in a minivan going uphill, and a little sports car just passed us like we were standing still. Well, as we topped the hill and went down, a highway patrolman came and he pulled us over, telling us that he had clocked us going 100 miles an hour. Well, apparently he had been outside of his car and his radar went off, and so when he came to check on the radar, he saw us coming over the hill and the other car had gone on. Well, he gave us a ticket for it, but later on he found out, as he reviewed the tape, that it wasn't us that was going so fast. And so eventually they did tear the ticket up, so to speak. But the point is this: there are times in our life where we are falsely accused of something, and we're even subject to penalties that maybe we don't deserve. How are we going to react? Are we going to be rude? Are we going to be discourteous? Are we going to dishonor the proper authority? Or are we going to handle it well? See, I think that Paul really showed us how we're to handle our interactions with the proper authority. Not because we agree with their conclusions, but because they are the authority. We may not even agree that they have any right to be an authority, but if they are a proper authority, then proper respect is due them. Paul realized that, and because Paul realized that, and treated those in authority with respect, he was in turn treated with respect and was given certain privileges that maybe you wouldn't expect for someone who is in prison to be able to enjoy. Well, again, I'm absolutely convinced that this lesson for us today is this: we need to treat other people well. People won't always treat us fairly, and even when they're not treating us fairly and we're treating them well, they may still continue to treat us unfairly. But if they're in a position of authority, there is a certain respect that is due them, and I believe that you'll find, I know that I've found through the years, that if we'll honor that authority and we'll give them the respect that's due their position, even if maybe it's not due the person that's in that position, that we'll receive a lot better results, and the message of Christ can be taught much more readily. You see, when you and I fly off the handle against somebody or treat somebody improperly or rudely, then it's very hard from that point on to be able to teach them about Christ or to impress them with our Christian life. Now, I realize that what we're looking at is easy to say but hard to do, but if we'll do it, I believe we'll find really good results as a result of that. Well, that's the study for today. I hope as you go through your study today that you'll gain some new knowledge, perhaps of things that you'd never really seen before or really thought about before. And I pray that God will continue to lead you in the truth so that you can make a good decision as far as your service before God. Well, that's the study for today. I hope we'll see you tomorrow.